if you're getting started into live streaming and creating content, or you're already doing it and you need to get a new camera. In today's video, we're gonna be talking about the best camera type for live streaming, of course, and creating content. We're gonna be looking at webcams, mirrorless, and of course PTZ. Now, depending on your budget and your use case scenario, hopefully at the end of the video you're gonna be sure which camera you should get. Right here in front of me, I have 8 cameras that I have selected from different camera type with no particular order. We got the OBSBOT Tail Air, we got the Mevo Core from Logitech, we got the Sony Zv-e10, we got the DJI Action 5 Pro, we got the OBSBOT Tiny 2, we got the OBSBOT Meet 2, we got the Yolocam S3, we got the OBSBOT Tail 2. So let's not take much time. Let's get right into it. What is going on, guys? My name is Sam. You're watching live production tips and tools. And of course, before we deep dive into features, I just want to share with you guys what we're going to be looking at. Basically, we're going to look at the image quality for each camera. Obviously, we're going to look at the price, because even if the image quality is good and you cannot afford it, then it's probably not worth it. We're gonna take a look at the sensor size, obviously, because a bigger sensor, it's mostly going to give you a better image and good low light performance. We're gonna take a look at the use case scenario, which is huge, because depending on what you're doing, if you're a gamer versus maybe streaming for a church versus maybe streaming as a content creator in an office like what you're seeing right now, again, truth is you may not need the same type of camera. And of course, lastly, we're gonna look at some special features that, depending on what you're doing, also you may need. So the first camera we're gonna take a look at is this tiny camera right here. This is the OBSBOT Meet 2. This is in the category of webcams. Now, OBSBOT has actually partnered with me to make this video for you guys, so thanks OBSBOT. However, the reason why we actually looking at the OBSBOT Meet 2 is the smallest camera, but also it's not only because it's the smallest camera we have right now among the others, but it's also the cheapest camera right now. Right now on Amazon, it's listed at $129, which is about $130. Again, pricing may change. You may have promotions when it's gonna go up or down, but on average, $130. It does record 4K. All the cameras we have here, by the way, guys, right now I'm recording this video in 2025. Most cameras can record 4K, so that's not a super special feature. However, as this tiny webcam that only connects to a USB cable and it goes directly into the computer, the image quality is really good. I've reviewed it. Again, I'm gonna link a video down below, a full review of this camera. It's really a nice camera if you're getting started as a creator, and it comes with the OBSBOT Center software that will actually help you tweak it, get some features like beauty features and things like that. Any camera you get, right, guys, you always make sure your lighting is actually good, because if you have bad lighting, any of the cameras that I'm gonna be talking about today, regardless of how big the sensor is, if you have interchangeable lens or not, if your lighting sucks, then the image quality is gonna suck. So assuming you have a decent, good looking lighting, this camera is gonna give you really good image. Now, the sensor size is actually 1/2, which is like half-inch sensor. It's not wow, but it's gonna give you decent, good looking image with HDR. It does record 4K, 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second if you use it in full HD. Now, it does not gonna give you any blurry background and things like that, because again, this is a webcam and it has a smaller sensor, so you cannot expect that, some sort of depth of field. However, again, if you're just doing a talking head video, doing Zoom calls, doing reaction videos as a creator, going live with a talking head video, this is gonna be a decent, even for podcasting, this is gonna be really a good camera. Plus, because of the size, when it comes to if you're traveling, you can just simply put it in your pocket. I mean, guys, look, it's very tiny, really tiny, and you're gonna be able to use it on the go as well. Now, the next camera we have on the list is gonna be one of my favorites. It's gonna be the Yolocam S3. Now, this webcam again is actually really good. It's a little bigger compared to Meet 2. As you can see, it doesn't have any sort of tracking or anything. When it comes to image quality, again, I'm gonna put on screen so you guys can take a look. It's a webcam, connects directly into your computer. It does 4K, 30 frames per second like the Meet 2. One thing that this is gonna have that's different from the Meet 2, obviously starting at the price, this one is actually retailing right now at $200 on average. Again, price may change, may go up or low, but on average right now it's $200, and it has really good autofocus. That's one thing that I will actually say this camera is gonna stand out. Now the price, again, as you can see, from 130 to 200, you see there's a price difference, but if you can afford it, this is gonna be a really good camera with good image quality. It's got 4K 30 frames per second and 1080 60 frames per second if you need that. Sensor size has actually a bigger sensor. It's 1/1.3, and that's why this camera is gonna give you a little bit of blurry background. It's actually the only webcam right now on the market that gives you a little bit of a blurry background. Usually that's something that you get on bigger cameras with, you know, interchangeable lenses that we're gonna take a look at eventually later in this video. And the image quality out of the box really looks good. Now, it doesn't have really any particular special features. It's gonna do a talking head video like what we just looked at with the Meet 2. Just a simple webcam, USB cable that connects into your computer and works. If you're traveling with it, same thing, you can just travel. And by the way, both these webcams can do either in horizontal mode or vertical mode by simply rotating them on the top of your monitor, which is pretty good. So I would say this is an upgrade from the Meet 2, obviously, if you have the budget, but it is still within the webcam category. The next camera we're gonna take a look at is gonna be the OBSBOT Tiny 2 4K. Now, when it comes to image quality, again, these cameras, the OBSBOT cameras, are really good. All right, because with the software, the OBSBOT Center, you can actually even tweak them, make them look even better. So the image quality is not something that I'm gonna question, obviously. Again, remember guys, all the cameras that I have here is the cameras that I've tested personally and I really like them. Now, if you look at the price, it's gonna be listed around $300, sometimes a little above $300 or a little below, but on average it's always listed at around $300. So it's an upgrade coming from the S3 to something like this. Obviously you're paying over, I mean, around $100 more. Now, is it worth it? I'm gonna tell you if it's worth it. Now, when it comes to image quality, low light performance and everything, obviously you guys are gonna see a sample on screen. However, looking at the sensor size, is 1/1.5, so the sensor is a little smaller compared to the S3. Now, why would you want to buy this camera over the Yolocam S3 if the S3 has a better image quality? Obviously, due to its bigger sensor. Now, for me personally, the only reason I would buy this camera or this webcam is the fact that it actually has what we call tracking, right? So this is not just a webcam, this is a tracking webcam. So as you can see, it has a gimbal, so when you turn around, it can actually track you, can follow you, especially if you're a content creator who's not just seated. Maybe you're doing things like, you know, fitness training, and or you kind of doing some instructor type of content where you're moving in the room. This camera is gonna be able to actually track you and follow you, which is really cool. But other than that, also obviously it's compatible with OBSBOT Center software, which means you can tweak it, you can, you know, do some PTZ presets in there, you can use the beauty features to kind of, you know, make yourself look even cooler, all those good stuff OBSBOT Center software that has to offer, which is, by the way, one of the best webcam softwares on the market right now. Even compared to the Yolocam S3, I think the OBSBOT Center software is the best so far when it comes to webcams from my personal experience. So that's that. So if you need the tracking function, this is gonna be a no-brainer. You're gonna need to get this camera. Obviously it comes with gesture control and some other cool stuff. All these webcams from OBSBOT, they're AI powered, so some cool things. Obviously I can't talk about everything, but for special features and use case scenario, this is a normal webcam. Connects your computer directly using USB directly, like any other webcams that we looked at. However, if you need this one feature, which is tracking and gesture control, of course, you know, being able to do things, you know, and then it will respond. And obviously, if you're moving around while you're actually live streaming and creating your content, then you know that this is the webcam to get. and that $100 or $150 upgrade, depending on, you know, from this or this, it's gonna be worth it. Now, our next camera is gonna be an upgrade in price, both in price and obviously in features, and this is gonna be the OBSBOT Tail Air. Now, the Tail Air, of course, does record in 4K, 30 frames per second, which is similar to the previous webcams. And it does give you, obviously, 60 frames per second in 1080, which is same thing. Pricing, it's around $500. Again, pricing may change, but on average, it's around $500. However, when it comes to image quality or sensor size, obviously, you still have access to OBSBOT Center software, which is going to help you to tweak it. However, the sensor size is actually smaller. It's a little smaller. I know the camera looks bigger, but the sensor size is actually smaller than what we have in Tiny 2, just a tiny smaller. It's also smaller than what we have in the Yolocam S3. Now, why is it that expensive? You look at the pricing right now, 500 from like, you know, 200 and 300. Why would you pay that much money? Now, the reason is some other features. First of all, the first thing, it has a built-in battery, which means this is not just gonna be a webcam. Now, if you want to use it as a webcam connected directly to your computer, you're gonna be able to do that no problem using a USB cable, USB Type-C. But it also has a built-in battery, which means if you want to use it on the go or outdoors, you're gonna be able to do that no problem. You just have to charge it and then you can go actually use it outside, no problem. Another thing, obviously, if you want to use it outdoors or outside of your office, you actually have an SD card slot, which means you can insert an SD card and record locally on the camera. To do that, you have it comes with an application, a mobile app where you can actually connect it remotely to it or wirelessly and be able to record and preview your image as you record. It also has a gimbal. As you can see, it's not just a normal webcam. So this is in the category of PTZ, but at the same time, webcam, right? So it has a gimbal, which means that the footage is gonna be super stable, but it can also track you. It's got AI built into it, so it can track you wherever you go, which is super cool. And if that was not enough, let's say you want to use multiple cameras like this one, instead of using USB, it actually comes with micro HDMI port. Micro HDMI port is gonna allow you to connect it to a HDMI switcher, something like the A10 Mini or A10 Mini Pro or any other switcher that can take HDMI. That's gonna be super useful because now if you want to have multiple cameras like this one, maybe you trying to record a podcast or a church service or any other event that requires multiple cameras, you're gonna be able to connect that to a switcher and be able to switch with, you know, using HDMI input, which is super cool. So why you paying that extra what, $200, $300 for this camera? You're obviously paying for those extra features, which I'll call special features. Use case scenarios, I just mentioned all those use case scenarios: church, outdoors, multi-camera streaming, so many cool use case scenarios. And again, if you need those features, you already know that this is your camera. But if you don't need those features, you probably don't need to buy it. You can actually go ahead and buy the smaller webcams. Now, another thing obviously is gonna come with some sort of zoom, so you can actually zoom in and out. That's a feature that you get in a PTZ camera. I'm not gonna get into specs and how much zoom you have on it. Obviously, any camera that you're interested in, I have a full review on all of these cameras that we're talking about today, guys. Just let me know. I'm gonna drop those in the comment section. Now, another camera that I wanted to mention, and this is in a different category. This is like in the action sports kind of type camera category, and this is around 300, 320, 350 depending on when you actually check it out, is the DJI Action 5 Pro. Now, I do not recommend this camera specifically for live streaming. This is an action camera. However, it does have some live streaming features because it comes with a USB Type-C port, and on that USB Type-C port, you can actually connect a USB to HDMI kind of converter, which I actually have here. And then from that, you can get to live stream, especially if you want to do some aero live streaming. So you're on the go, or you're doing some action like racing and, you know, biking or anything you want to do outdoors. This is a great camera, by the way. and you can actually use it. Now the sensor size is 1/1.3, which is actually really good. That's close to this one, the Yolocam sensor size. It's actually the same sensor size. It's got 4K 120 frames per second, which is like super crazy. But again, this is really an action camera. It's meant for sports. I wouldn't recommend it for any other stuff, like maybe like talking head stuff. Like you can see the lenses are super wide and things like that. Really made specifically for sports. So if you are into sports, it's gonna give you the best image quality. By the way, if you record, either you record or live stream, it's gonna give you the best image quality. Obviously, you got 4K, 120 frames per second, 60 frames per second, full HD. You got plenty of frames per second. And obviously for live streaming, it's gonna be easy. Just gonna connect to any streaming device that you may have, depending on how you want to set it up, and it's gonna do the job. Now the next camera is gonna be in the category of webcam, but also mirrorless. It's in between, and that's the Mevo Core from Logitech. This is what it looks like. Now, why this camera is actually super special. By the way, this is an upgrade. Now we're talking about around $1,000, just the body. Now, if you add the lens, depending on which one you're gonna get, you can get a lens for $500, $200, $100. It really depends on how much you want to spend on the lens, but a full setup on average may cost you maybe around $1,500. Again, depending on the type of lens that you get. The camera itself, the body, you cannot use just the body. You still really need to use it with a lens, right? But the fact that it has an interchangeable lens feature, that means it's gonna give you really super high quality. It's gonna give you a mirrorless DSLR level of quality. Now the sensor size, this is a micro four third sensor, which is exactly the same sensor that I'm using to record this video on my Panasonic GH5. And the reason why I mentioned that it has the webcam feature is because it has a USB port that you can actually connect it directly to your computer and use it as a webcam. Now, as a webcam, is gonna be like kind of like overkill because it's gonna give you a blurry background depending on the type of lens that you have. Obviously, the sensor is massive compared to the webcams that we actually talked about. So that's gonna be really cool. Now, the price, obviously, you know, you're not paying $200 or $300 or $500, right? So what you see in the price is actually reflected in the quality. One of the issues that I had with it is Logitech has not implemented any sort of autofocus. You have an app that comes with it that will allow you to control the focus, which is really good. You can do things like zooming and things like that, which is good. And of course, another special feature is the fact that if you're into podcasting or you want to do multi-camera production, not only it's got some built-in battery, which means you can actually take it outside and outdoors and on the go and use it as just a standalone camera. It also has a HDMI port, which means full-size HDMI port. You can connect to your switcher and use multiple cameras like this one and be able to switch between cameras, which is good. Also, the fact that it's interchangeable lens, obviously, you can add any type of lens that you want that supports micro four thirds. You also have like a lot of adapters out there that you can use if you want to use a lens that's not micro four third, and that's gonna allow you to do things like zooming and zooming out and being able to set it up for, you know, wide shots, tight shots, depending on what you're trying to do. Either you streaming events, or you're doing church live streaming, or as a creator, or as a podcaster. I mean, this camera is just gonna do everything. Now, on the top of that, it also comes with an application from Logitech that will allow you to actually combine multiple cameras like this one and be able to do a multi-camera production on your phone or an iPad, right? So you can be able to wirelessly connect these cameras on that application and be able to choose angles so you can produce. You can either go live or just record. You can record internally because it has an SD card slot, or you can even record within the app and actually maybe edit it later. Really, like, the camera has a lot of potential depending on what you're trying to do. I would say this camera is gonna cover a big range of scenarios, you know, coming from like creator, you know, outdoors, maybe not sports, but like, you know, church production, events, podcasting, like most of it. Really. Now, the next camera we're gonna talk about is in the category of PTZ, but again, it can also still be used in the creator space. Obviously, like a creator like me but it's mostly gonna shine for events, outdoors. It still has a built-in battery, obviously, and some other cool features I'm gonna talk about. But also it's got a bigger range, a wider range of zoom, and the sensor size is a little bit bigger, and the image quality obviously coming from OBSBOT. With the OBSBOT Center software, you can actually tweak it and make it look good, and some other juicy features we're gonna talk about. So this is the OBSBOT Tail 2, and again, this is a PTZ R, because the R is because it can rotate if you want to use it for vertical content, like for TikTok or for Instagram Reels and things like that. You can actually do that. Now, if you look at the price, this camera is actually priced at around $1,200. Now, again, pricing may change. However, why that expensive? First of all, it's got some other PTZ connections here that bigger PTZ or, other PTZs that you used to actually do have. But on the top of that, it actually has the tracking features, all the good tracking features and gesture control features that we get in smaller OBSBOT cameras. So with AI, of course, built into it, that's an OBSBOT thing. So you got all the OBSBOT juicy features built into it. And by the way, guys, this camera, looking at the sensor size, actually has a bigger sensor compared to most traditional PTZ cameras on the market, which are super expensive, by the way. Most of these PTZ cameras are ranging from like, $1,500 to $2,000, $3,000. You can get some cheaper ones, but this camera, guys, amazing. Now, let's talk about some of the connections they have on the camera. You have HDMI in, like full-size HDMI, so if you want to use it in a multi-camera production. You have SDI, if you want to use SDI, that's like a pro feature. You have Ethernet in, so if you want to connect to a network and use things like NDI, which is NDI is actually available in the Tail Air from OBSBOT. By the way, I didn't mention it. NDI and something called SRT. You also have a built-in battery, so if you want to take it outside and use it outdoors where it's not plugged to power, you're gonna have that. You also have like a bunch of connections for connecting to, your microphone in, headphones in. You can do that. You can go live directly from the camera to YouTube or to any other platform. Of course, comes with an app to control it, plus the OBSBOT Center, of course, which is cool. You got an SD card slot if you want to record directly to the camera, which is super cool. And of course, yeah, you got all the tracking features that I already mentioned from OBSBOT. Great camera overall. And again, as I say, guys, if you need this camera, you know that you need it. If you don't need it, you don't need it, because looking at the price, it has to be something that you really need. Now, our last camera is gonna be in the category of mirrorless or DSLR. This is the Sony Zv-e10. Now, this camera, obviously, if you don't need the tracking features from cameras like OBSBOT Tail Air or Tail 2 or Tiny 2, and you need a better image quality overall, bigger sensor. This is gonna have a bigger sensor compared to even Micro Four Thirds. So it has a bigger sensor. The sensor is bigger than what I have actually on the camera that you're watching right now, which is the Panasonic GH5. And of course, it's interchangeable lens, so which means I can actually change this lens and attach a different lens, right? Which means every lens that I attach obviously is gonna cost me more money, but also it's gonna give me a particular look. It could be better image quality, better blurry background, or better zoom range. Again, depending on what I'm trying to get, that's what's gonna determine the type of lens that I'm gonna use on it. Overall, because of its bigger sensor size, obviously the image quality is gonna be amazing. Low light capability is gonna be amazing. Again, there's no tracking and things like that. There's no PTZ stuff. Obviously, you're not gonna get that. But if you're a creator, either doing like a talking head video like this one that I'm doing, and you need something that looks really fancy with the blurry background, like a pro level, this is the camera that I actually recommend. I personally use it, love it. It's very popular among creators. It has HDMI, which means I can actually connect directly the camera to something like the A10 Mini Pro or any other HDMI capture card. It also has USB streaming, so if you want to use it as a webcam, you can actually connect it directly to your computer. It's gonna give you a good image quality with really good blur background and something that looks really good, and you can use it as a webcam. In most cases, I would recommend, if you want to get the best out of it, just use the HDMI feature. Either you connect to a capture card or something like an HDMI switcher. If you are into podcasting, this is going to be perfect. If you have multiple cameras like this, it's going to be perfect. If you're vlogging, this is going to be perfect. If you just want to do one talking head video, this is going to be perfect. However, it's going to come with a price tag obviously attached to it, but it's actually not that bad. If you look at it, it's around $700, and obviously depending on what type of lens, this is just the body. So say a good lens, it's on average around $400. You can get it less or a little bit more, but most creators will probably tend to use a lens that will cost around $400 or $300 really. So I would say roughly, with the lens included, above $1,000, and that's gonna give you really good image quality. But other than that, guys, this video is gonna help you choose the best camera for live streaming. However, just having the camera is not enough. You also need a software to be able to live stream. And if you want to know the best live streaming software that you should use right now, you want to make sure to check out this video right here, and I'll see you there, guys. Take care.